be a gondola in Tweed Valley?
Every one of those groups has a right to be in the outdoors, as we would argue mountain bikers do.
Testing and prototyping facilities. Is this you going head to head with Taiwan?
The numbers have gone hugely up there, and we're up to 70,000 riders a year on there as well.
Hi, I'm Hannah, and in this week's Single Track World podcast, I'm joined by Graeme McLean, who is the head of developing mountain biking in Scotland, or DIMBINS, as we may end up referring to it. Thanks for joining us, Graeme.
No, thanks for having us, Hannah.
And Graeme is in the middle of a very busy week because the UCI has landed in Scotland, and you're about to launch a report, which is why we're recording this now, in the hope that we'll get this edited out just about as the report is hitting the headlines. As I call it report, it's not, is it? What's the official title of this document?
Yeah, the official title of the document is the Strategy for Scottish Mountain Biking 2023 to 2025.
Okay, everyone, stay with us. Don't fall asleep. This is not a sleep assistance podcast. This is important and interesting stuff.
It does. The title doesn't give it too much, but the detail within it, I hope that your listeners will find interesting and informative, and ultimately make Scottish mountain biking better, which is what I think your listeners will want to see happen on the ground.
Well, so I guess this is a refresh of a strategy, isn't it, that pre-existed. So what's the purpose of this document? Is it, tell us why it's there.
Yeah, good. Since 2010, we've had a national strategy for within Scottish mountain biking. We refreshed it again in 2015. From that initial, which was more of a strategic framework. We refreshed that one again from 15 to 18. All the time we were really building up a number of really exciting projects within Scottish mountain biking, and that led to us really creating a strategy from 2019 to 2025, which I think was probably the most visionary and the most exciting strategy that had been released to date. I think it really did define exactly where Scottish mountain biking wanted to go and where it was needing to do, and has really helped bring in a huge range of investments into it. In fact, we're estimating that the strategy has helped look at sort of £200 million worth of investment into Scottish mountain biking, which has not all been delivered, it's all been proposed. As we've been working through that as well, obviously when you're writing a strategy in 2018 and you're trying to forecast what the next 6 years are going to look like, we had a fairly normal 2019, but then 2020 was not at all so normal. So as we worked through that, and that took us somewhat off task when we had to look at what COVID brought within Scottish mountain biking, when we had to communicate and work with Scottish Government to help communicate to mountain bikers what restrictions were with COVID. And then also as well, the massive influx of new mountain bikers that we've had during COVID, which is mostly positive, but had some things that we needed to manage around that. And then also, just as we moved through things, we realised that our 6V strategy, while basically sound, was needing to be refreshed, just take into account where we are with the wider kind of macrosphere of macro situation that we have within politics and within funding and within wherever it is. We wanted to just check that we were on the right track. And we also felt there was a number of subjects, like e-bikes, for example, that we wanted to go into in more depth. And we wanted to really make sure all our thinking was right so that we can set ourselves up for at least the next 3 years and also beyond that.
Right. And so you mentioned the next 3 years. Is that how long developing mountain biking in Scotland is funded for, or is that all to play for?
Yeah, no, that's all to play for. I mean, it's developing mountain biking in Scotland. The strategy isn't really tied to our funding in any real way at all. From it as well. So our funding has been delivered some on a variety of different ways. Our funding has came from national agencies such as the enterprise agencies, and it's also came from Scottish Government as well. We're actually in a phase of working with Scottish Government to understand what our funding might look like from next year. From next April, being honest, we actually are in a position where there's actually quite limited funds coming into the core of developing mountain biking in Scotland from next April. So we're working with government to see how we can look to explore different options and to get funding into ourselves, and to make sure our core consensus can can keep on supporting, and particularly supporting our regional posts and some national posts that we're having in now as well. So those are live discussions, and they're working on them, but they're not really tied to the strategy per se. The strategy is led by Developing Mountain Biking in Scotland. That's our role, is to lead it and to pull it together and to collect the thoughts and ideas and the plans from within the mountain bike community, within businesses who are working on things, within national agencies, within Scottish Government, pull them all into one place, and then try to make sure that we have a strong vision, we've got a mission, we've got leadership, and then we've got themes that we can work through that can really help everybody really understand what is happening across the board of Scottish mountain biking, so what's happening right across the breadth of it, so that we can actually all be referencing each other, all helping to secure wider funding, and actually making the whole of the sector grow. And Developing Mountain Biking in Scotland is just a conduit to really help that overall growth.
Right. So it's kind of a way to focus minds on the many different cats that have little pots of funding. Rather, I guess I'm thinking about other strategies that you kind of you get funding and you allocate funding to each strand of that strategy, and then you go, are we spending the money on the thing that's on that headline? And this doesn't feel like it works in quite that way, because you haven't got a big pot of money to spend.
Exactly. There is sort of two ways that a strategy can work. We could go to government and say, here across the piece, this is a £200 million strategy, or we could or we can pull the strategy together, and then we can actually all work at getting bits of funding that are out there, which then all support the growth of the overall thing. So everything is joined up to a pretty good extent, and we've got national agencies talking to each other, government talking to each other, and within different destinations and different local authorities and cities, we're seeing people talking to each other and working well together, but we're all heading in the same direction, and we all understand how it can be fed. And then we also got a kind of flywheel effect happening as well with it, where funding starts to look at, well, why should we have a World Championships come to Scotland? We were involved in the bid for that to come forward in 2018, I think it was, and we said, well, actually, this all ties in really nicely with the national strategy, because we're looking at an innovation centre, we're looking at investment into Aberdeenshire, we're looking to do master plans for the Highlands, we've got money allocated to Seven Stains. World Champs will just help all of those things come together and grow. So we end up being able to reference each other through the strategy, which means that everybody who's involved in Scottish mountain biking, if they can see a part of the strategy they can deliver, or that they're involved in deliver, they can reference that within their funding bids, and that shows there's an overall coordination, and that it means it's more likely to get funding as we go as they develop their projects.
Right. Okay. And then when you look at the report, or the strategy itself, it's split up into different sections, different headings, but I guess broadly speaking, it looks at the economic case for mountain biking and kind of the benefit. And there's, as I see it, there's the tourism money that comes into Scotland or comes into communities. There's the business innovation, the actual bike industry coming and making things, and then there's the kind of the people that live in the local communities. There's a benefit that's economic from them being healthy and living full lives and that kind of thing. Have I understood that correctly?
Yeah, broadly. I mean, I think it's not just focused on economy, but although that's a big part of it, and the kind of mission is sort of threefold. It's one is to grow that sustainably as well, so working with communities, not dropping tourism into them, but trying to work within communities to have to support the communities, to put the right things in places to really to be able to deliver great experiences for mountain bikers who are visiting them, and they want mountain bikers to be there. So trying to work with communities to do that, develop products, which is their economic return. We also want to see, we want to grow participation within Scottish people. We want to have more people visiting the outdoors and experiencing the joys of mountain biking. And that's broadly in two different camps of that. You've got people who can do it themselves, so they can go, and what we want to do is be able to provide information and advice to them to do it responsibly and understand where they can access and get great experiences and build up their skill levels. And two, a range of programs for people who are not quite as fortunate to be able to do it themselves, and we can put in programs in place to support them into experiencing the joy that mountain biking brings. And the third part of the mission as well is for those people, and Scottish people in particular, who are participating in it, can they, if they want to, go really fast on the bike and compete and then have success in the world stage, like we see a lot of our athletes who are doing at the Worlds this week.
Yeah. Exciting stuff as well. I'm watching some of it. Yeah. So the first section then is kind of about trails, and I think that's involved a lot of work with your regional coordinators, which is something that I think has happened since the last strategy refresh. Have I got that right?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, we've for probably since when we started developing mountain bike in Scotland in 2010, it was a really small core team of myself and a part-time administrator supporting us to do things. We went out and we worked around a number of different projects, and we really helped get a lot of trails close to town. We helped set up a lot of participation projects. We worked on a lot of things. I did feel though we were probably missing the ability to go deep within some of our key kind of mountain biking heartlands, and really make a substantive difference in pulling them together. And I thought that actually there was a bit of a time where, you know, there was some relationships in those places that were needing to be sorted, and that was starting to come through, and there was some ideas that potentially weren't as likely to reach their potential. So we thought, actually, if we can come into those areas there, it's actually a full-time job to work in those areas and to do it, and to for people to come in and really make a difference and really help join things up and do that. So we got some funding from the European Union, matched by some money from Scottish Enterprise, one of our enterprise agencies, and we put our first regional coordinator into the Tweed Valley in 2016.
Right.
And that was Ed Shute. He's gone on to produce not through our work, but he's also he's written a gravel book, and he's a really keen cyclist and one of the smartest people that I've had the pleasure to work with, to be honest. And Ed did a fantastic job of supporting the Tweed Valley Trails Association, who were forming at the time. He supported a lot of businesses to grow products. He helped a lot more events to come to the area. And then crucially as well, he kind of helped and worked with Aim Up, which were looking to put a chairlift, looking to put a kind of railway actually into Innerleithen, and worked with them to evolve their ideas, and eventually that actually, and then he also worked with them to put in an innovation centre, and there was a lot of things happening within that whole regional coordinator model, which we talked a lot about at the time, and I think sometimes we get a little bit of you only care about the Tweed Valley, but we were actually doing a lot of good work in that area, and we also wanted that model to be replicated in other areas, and we wanted to tell people, well, actually, here's how good it is when you can put a regional coordinator into a place. This is all the things that can be achieved. And Aberdeenshire were the next place that really grabbed that as well, and through the same funding mechanism we were able to bring in Will Clark, who's who's been a fantastic addition up there, and we've really seen Aberdeenshire grow hugely over the last number of years. And it's not just Will and it's not just Ed, it's actually it's the impact I think that they can have working with people and helping people within those local areas, whether they're businesses or community groups or others, really reach their potential and grow. And then we can see investment following that, and we can see actually just some brilliant mountain bike experiences following them as well. And we've got Rory over in the Highlands as well, who's also doing a fantastic job, and they've got huge investment going into the Highlands over this summer in particular.
So I think we've obviously seen the Tweed Valley, the rise of the Tweed Valley and its success, and then at Single Track here we've started to see quite a lot of Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire stuff, so we can see those regional coordinators, the impact of them. And the Highlands, I'm starting to hear whispers around. So yeah, I think it does work. And I guess that's the thing of overcoming that barrier that you have when a lot of people on the ground are volunteers. And it makes such a difference to have that one person that kind of knows the area and can put that time into a little bit of admin and herding cats and funding applications or whatever to make it happen. So given that those are regional coordinators, and it's taken that kind of small geographical focus, I wonder what you think the impact of the new UKL Trails project manager is going to be able to be, because they're going to have to cover all of England and Wales and Scotland and Ireland, Northern Ireland. It's a big job and it's a big remit, but I think it's.
we've got a lot of knowledge of working in Scotland within trails, both through myself, which has been kind of 14 years of supporting different trail groups, forming and developing and putting in trails, both close to cities and helping with trails associations and other things. Our regional coordinators have got that. We're involved in a pan-European project called Developing Inter-European Resources for Trail Building Training, the DIRT project, as it's easier named. So we got a lot of knowledge of working in that as well, and also a lot of growing kind of knowledge of the templates that can be formed, the relationships, the different models that can be done and can be put into places. We're hoping we can take that knowledge and feed them into the new UK Trails person. And then they, particularly through the first 6 months, can really look to understand what the needs and requirements are for groups across the UK. Now, this probably won't solve everybody and everybody's, it probably won't be the panacea to everybody's problems for sure. But at least we can come up with a bit of a plan as to how we can best support groups. And we're pretty open to how that works at the moment. We don't claim to know everything that's happening in England and Wales, Northern Ireland. We've got a good grasp on where things are in Scotland and what groups are needing here and the need for more professional, as they professionalise and start to have staff themselves as well. And I think, but we're open to seeing where this goes in England, Wales and Northern Ireland. And that we will have that, we've built in that into the project as well, is that they will really look to try and understand where groups are, where landowners are, where land managers are, where is the win-wins that can be done? Are they win-wins that are specific to a country, or are they win-wins that could actually go across all countries and do that? And then we'll look to produce a report on that, which will then set out the KPIs, and then we've got 2.5 years for that person to do it. In a lot of ways, I can see parallels with myself starting in 2010, with one person trying to do it and building it up, and that will bring us up to a team of 9 now within Developing Mountain Bike in Scotland. So it's from small acorns, and it's great to also see SRAM coming in as a sponsor and getting the industry involved. And I think if we can harness that and harness the whole industry, and SRAM are also open for more companies and particularly UK companies to come in and start supporting it. If we can get that, and we can get support from local groups, and we hope we can support them in some way through this process, and to understand that first, then I think we're going to be we're looking for progress, not perfection as well.
Yeah. It would be a terrible irony if, having secured 3 years of funding from SRAM for the national project manager, that Developing Mountain Biking in Scotland found its own funding pulled from April. That would be a disaster. So I certainly hope that April onwards becomes secure.
I think so. I mean, I think it's just I mean, I'm always one for being honest with people as well and putting them forward. And it's one that I'm quite confident we will be able to source things, given the impact that we can evidence as well. We've worked a lot on and pretty hard on evidencing most of the work that we've been doing. We've worked with universities, we've worked with private consultants to come in and look at it, and we've never done anything that's completely perfect ever, I don't think. But we've always looked to learn at what we've through every project we've been doing, every project we've been managing. How can we learn? How can we make that better? What's the impact of it been as well? And we've always been able to show a positive impact, but with rooms for improvements, and we try to bring that into our practice, and how we run things.
So going back to the strategy, because that took us off on a diversion there, sorry. So the first section on it is about the trails, and I looked in there, and as I was reading it, I was thinking, is there a threat to access in Scotland? Because it says in there something about accepting that some unauthorised trails will need to be removed, and questioning the damage that's done by e-bikes, and it just felt to me like, oh, maybe Scotland's access isn't as secure as we all think it is when we're down in England.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always threats to things that you can do as well. I mean, it's certainly both of those things have been discussed through the National Access Forum. We've been quite proactive in making sure that any potential risks that may be there for access are not just decided on people's opinions, or we haven't tried to find good and reasonable solutions to some of sometimes justifiable issues that landowners and land managers have with mountain biking behaviours. And so on those two subjects, we worked really hard with and through the National Access Forum, with the National Farmers Union, with Forestry and Land Scotland, with Scottish Land and Estates, with other recreational groups as well, from walking groups, Mountaineering in Scotland, British Horse Society, to really look at, well, with unauthorised trails, how can we find a way of managing that means that mountain biking can exist and mountain bikers can have those trails, and how can they help manage those on behalf of landowners? And that's really been a really crucial document to then see the birth of trails associations, which is something that, you know, is rider driven, and we don't take all the credit of that for sure. The people, volunteers who come forward in that are the ones that are putting in huge amounts of graft and effort, and we really appreciate that. But that document has given them the framework to be able to do that. And with e-bikes as well, we you know, there is the Scottish Outdoor Access Code, for example, says that it's you only have access if it's non-motorised access. So there's been a bit of a question, well, if it's an e-bike, how is that not motorised? And we've looked at that and said, well, the law is that these are pedal assist cycles, they're electric pedal assist cycles, and that's why that should be. And also, we don't think that your fears around e-bikes are justified. And some of those fears of just e-bikes being everywhere and not listening and not taking in any education so we wanted to understand that better, and we worked with British Cycling over last year, and with a report that was published in January to really look at not just British Cycling but also the landowner bodies and a lot of other people, and we did some workshops and focus groups as well within Napier University who developed the report. And that gives us an evidence base to really understand e-bike use and to help the National Access Forum understand e-bike use. So, but all the time we are quite aware that we do have privileged access rights, and we can't be taking that for granted. We need to have good education, we have good communication with mountain bikers, and people need to understand their responsibilities that comes with those fantastic rights.
I think from our point of view in the other nations, we're kind of still clamouring and asking for rights on a par with Scotland, and we keep saying, oh look, why can't we have the same as Scotland? And in some respects I think that proving that it can work and showing that evidence and showing the evidence for tackling the problems is going to be part of what we're going to need, as we're sensing some of the political shift around access right changes in England and Wales. Like, if it's not addressed in Scotland, or it doesn't work in Scotland, it'll be used against us to go, well look, they gave it out in Scotland and now we're having to take it away, whatever, so we shouldn't give you it in the first place. So I think, even if we never come and visit Scotland, what happens there in terms of access is super important for mountain bikers in the UK at the moment.
Yeah, and I think so, and especially as we see the sport grow as well. I mean, we're having more and more people coming in, and our growth needs to be sustainable, though. It needs to work in with land management, it needs to work in with other users. We, like every one of those groups, has a right to be in the outdoors, as we would argue mountain bikers do as well. We've all got a right to do it, but we've not got a right to just do it without any taking any responsibility for our actions. We need to be able to access those places. We need to consider what is happening with land management, what are the other users, what am I likely to see, to meet with them and do it, and just generally follow rule number one, isn't it, Hannah? You know, you just need to, it's not that hard, you just need to really kind of go, well, what do they need from me now? Maybe not to go through that harvesting site, that they put a reasonable diversion in place. Let's just don't be that guy, and let's follow that diversion, and, you know, let's be nice to walkers and do all that. Even if they're grimacing as we go past them, it's still worth a big smile and a wave and a thanks if they've stood aside.
So then I'll move on to the next section of the strategy, which is destinations, and key destinations gets a lot of mentions in the text, and I was wondering, what do you see the key destinations as being? Is it?
Yeah. What we did through the 19 to 25 strategy is we segmented them into different levels as well. So we had premier destinations, which were the Tweed Valley and Fort William. We had priority destinations on Dumfries and Galloway, Perthshire, Cairngorms and North Highlands. And then we had emerging ones of Loch Lomond and Trossachs in Aberdeenshire. What that gave us was an ability to focus our work particularly from a tourism perspective, and also from communicating to people where the best places to riders are within those. What we've looked at in this strategy as well is going, well, actually, let's open that out a bit, and let's actually work with those destinations particularly, but also some other ones that might be coming on, such as Argyll, maybe not just Tweed Valley within the borders, but the south of the borders, Murray, potentially the islands. And let's look to there and look to benchmark them, and let's have that a look at that across the whole of Scotland. So we still will look to take a destination approach, but we haven't specified them like we did in the 19 to 25 strategy. And we'll look to create a benchmark, and then hopefully be able to use that benchmark. Not us doing it, here's your scorecard. That's not it. It has to be about the destinations themselves becoming involved in it, the people involved in it, the communities involved in it, the businesses, and seeing how they being honest about where they are, and then putting in the actions and the steps that we can support them with to then help grow and improve their offer to mountain bikers in that area.
Right. Okay. So we might get some new places to go and ride. That would be good. And I also noticed that it says in there that you want to have a World Cup in Scotland from 2024. But as far as I understand it, that's not looking likely next year, is it?
There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. I mean, it's what we definitely see the value of we've seen it this week in our communities. We've seen it in Fort William at the weekend. We're in the Tweed Valley this week as well for the mountain bike at the XC mountain biking. We see the value of having major events and the profile that they give your sport. We see that. We know there's a lot of changes to them as well, and to how World Cups have been managed through BD Sports Group taking on them, and we're really keen though that we can work with Scottish Government, work with destinations, to put in the infrastructure required and to make sure we can give ourselves the best chance of having World Cups back into the future. And certainly as well, I'm a kind of optimistic kind of guy. I'd like to think that dream isn't dead, and we can make those things happen from 2024 and beyond.
Is there anywhere else like on the list that could be like a downhill World Cup destination beyond Fort William?
Potentially. I mean, we've definitely got different places doing developing things up. We've got within the trails bit of the bit going back there as well. We've got strategic projects that we're looking at developing, and we've got a range of them happening across the country. We've got the Tweed Valley, which is looking at a bike park coming in. We've got the Dunoon mountain bike project. Aberdeenshire is really invested in the growth of mountain biking, given the success of the work that's happened in that area and the recent launch of like Tarlin Trails as well. So we've got a number of different locations across the country which we would hope that they could start to put in the steps to work ourselves toward that. And even like as well, I think we're quite keen to work with key places and to work with key projects, and even if we quite don't get towards that level, if we just fall short of it, we'll still be going to provide pretty amazing experiences for mountain bikers as well. So I'm always a big believer in trying to reach there, and if again that progress, not perfection, when you get to that as well.
So will there ever be a gondola or a chairlift in Tweed Valley? That's been talked about lots of times. I've rather lost track of whether it's coming or going.
Yeah, well, we're in a good place to make sure. Certainly, we're in a really good place within mountain biking in the Tweed Valley with the Tweed Valley Trails Associations. We've just secured some new funding to keep a trail coordinator in who's working a lot of trails in the Golfey and other ones. We've got the Innovation Centre coming as well, which is about £13 million of investment coming in through
next on my list to ask you about.
Yeah. So we'll get to that. But that Innovation Centre is tied to a bike park as well. So right. that bike park is at a stage now where it's gone out to tender. There's been a selected tender, and they're just working through the process of what that bike park might look like to do that. So they're working through with landowners and with other people to work through that and to see what will go into that space as well. So that's kind of all I can say at the moment, because it's all into those levels of discussions.
And which hill is that currently on? Does it have a...
It doesn't have an exact location. There's not been a publicised location, so it's been looking at across the Tweed Valley as well. There's been a number of places that, or 2 or 3 sites that it might be able to go in. So again, that's just a process of working with the potential provider who will come in, and they will come in and also provide private finance, which would then be matched with the finance that we can supply through the combined bid of Innovation Centre and Bike Park.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well then, onto this innovation centre. It says that it's to will offer testing and prototyping facilities. Is this you going head to head with Taiwan?
I don't know if it's quite head to head with Taiwan. I mean, I think it's. I think though what we will have to what we in particularly their manufacturing. I mean, we want to see more manufacturing for sure. Coming back. If you look at the statistics of bikes being made within the UK, it was certainly it's just hugely alarming, that cliff edge they went through in the early 2000s as well. And we've seen steady growth as we've got coming up, and we would like to see more of that coming on. I don't think we're going to reach Taiwan levels of it, but nor do I think that shipping our flying bikes from Taiwan over to Europe is the most sustainable option that we could ever have as well. So I think we do need to look at a reshoring one as well. What I think the Innovation Centre does though is it provides that ability for brands to come in to look at testing products. The trail at the bike park will be like a trail lab, so there'll be they're investigating a closed 5G loop system through the bike park, right. So you'll have automatic data coming back off the hill, back into your design studio or your maker's lab within the Innovation Centre, that you can then tweak your parts. You can look at that telemetry that's on the bikes to understand that, put it back out onto the hill, get it tested. If it's not working, you can use the 3D printer that's on site to print off new parts. And that's the bike parts themselves. Then there's also looking at being a human lab as well, into that as well, so we can understand what parts we can improve within the human through physiology and other things. Starting to actually crept into a zone there, Hannah, where I was starting to describe things that I'm not sure that I'm the best qualified to do it. Henry Napier University and South of Scotland Enterprise have been working really hard on the detail of what that'll do. I'm kind of giving you the broad brush of it. I think it would be useful as that becomes more open, is to get one of them onto your podcast to actually give you
before we have headlines of like Scotland's concentrated doping centre.
Or Graham just making up words because he doesn't quite understand what the clever scientists are doing. But I mean, I think it's really exciting though to have for global brands, and we're actually going to. We've got an Innovation in Tech Power of the Bike conference on Thursday, and it's the delegate list for that is just hugely exciting to see the interest from the industry around what the Innovation Centre is and how they can be a part of it and how they can use that advanced testing to really produce excellent products for mountain bikers as well, and also just. We think that actually having more people come to live and work and having high-end jobs as well as having tourism jobs gives us a really sustainable model for our towns within the Tweed Valley.
Okay, it'd be an excellent place to be a bike journo as well, because there'd be all the secret prototypes to be spotted.
There could be that as well, and I mean we're seeing it happen already within the Tweed Valley as well. Is that we do have journalists up here as well, Hannah. It'd be great to have you up as well. More people relocating here, and I think that alchemy though could work really well. And the Innovation Centre will have hot desking, and it'll have the ability to be there. So we really hope that it will become a place where industry and media can mix and can be there. And while some things might need to be closed and be protected as they get developed, and I'm sure that will happen as well. But it will give us a place where people can come together, and we know when we bring people together, you get good ideas, you get creativity, and then you get innovation from them as well.
A hotbed of mountain biking. Now then, there was a bit that maybe I've seen a draft and it's been amended, but there was a bit in the innovation bit that I just didn't understand. I'm going to read it to you. So it says, the Mountain Bike Innovation Centre will be part of an EU-wide network of innovation support, which provides many opportunities for Scottish-based businesses and academia. As an industry that will be largely protected from changes within the macro and political landscape, it's important that support is available for both academia and businesses to engage at European level. Now, I thought we were totally exposed, not protected. I thought we were being massively affected by world goings on. So what does that mean?
Yeah, good. Within that,
sorry.
No, you're okay. And the bike industry is fairly resilient. for things as well. I mean, it's going through a bit of a hard time just now, and mountain biking, from how I'm understanding it from conversations, is providing one of the strong solutions to it. What we've seen, COVID obviously big boom with things as well. We did see in 2008 though as well, when we had the economic crash, what we did see was that bike sales were largely protected from that, because as you have that crash, whilst we lose some high end and some particularly mid end bike sales, you did have a lot of people coming on who were downsizing in cars and then moving on to bikes as well. So as an industry, it has an ability to smooth over both from macro and political, and we're also seeing more investment happening, well, in most European countries. Scotland, one as well. I know not in all European countries, Hannah, but we are seeing investment in most European countries coming through. So there will be, the industry is anticipated to grow from now up to 2030 as well. So it is an industry that is looking to grow within that as well. What is important though is that we continue to be able to network and not just be sitting isolated as well. There's going to be certain the Cycling Industries Europe. They're doing a presentation actually on Thursday, so I'm looking forward to catching up on this. But they have a vision of creating a network of innovation centres around Europe, which have the ability for bike companies to use academia to become smarter, to get their bikes better, and to provide a better level of data service, be able to improve the bike so we can continue with innovation. And we'll all find our unique wins within there. So for example, I think Scotland mountain biking is a natural fit. And I think they're looking at e-bike technology and batteries in Germany, for example. Perhaps not the best one to quote me on there. It's, again, I'm looking forward to catching up with them on Thursday. But that's the vision, is that there's a European network of innovation centres.
Pockets of expertise, and they'll let Scotland be part of Europe. You'll continue the independence campaign. Pretend that Brexit never happened.
Well, we can't pretend it didn't happen. It's definitely impacted us. Like, that's the DIRT project. We had funding from the EU for a number of years. We had our regional coordinators funded from Europe as well. So that it is having an impact for sure. I mean, there is some replacement fundings coming to ones as well from the UK government, are investing into local authorities within Scotland, and mountain biking we've secured for money for the Scottish Borders through that, and we've got a current bid up in Aberdeenshire as well. So there is replacement bits, but there is challenges for that as well. So we're definitely, we're not isolated from it totally, but we also, like, I do think, like, generally all of us and DMBNS, I really value the network out in Europe as well. I really miss that as well. Well, one miss being funded for the project, but over to the Edinburgh Europe conference in the start of June, and being able to network and work with people who are doing a similar job in different countries and learning from their experiences and being able to share ours and doing things is hugely valuable. And we might have to find different ways to fund it than the EU, but I still think that learning and sharing and shaping things, working with other countries is a good thing.
Yes. I think there's a bunch of us that might agree.
Yeah.
Well, and mountain biking is a good thing for health and inclusion, which is the next bit in your strategy. So I guess that's the bit that kind of sets aside some of the tourism stuff and looks at the people who are either mountain biking now in their local areas or could get out there. And I was quite interested to see that you're looking at some of the sort of family cycling connectivity that, as mountain bikers, we might kind of look at a cycle path and think, meh. But you're saying in the strategy that it's an important kind of gateway into mountain biking.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I definitely think there's something in. We need to explore this a bit more, but I definitely think there's something in connected communities as well. There's something in that that ability to want to ride your bike. I mean, there's functional transport that we'll need to have, and particularly within tight urban spaces, it's going to be challenging to put in a jump line, for example. We're not totally unrealistic, but there is quite a lot of communities that will work with some green space around them. They'll have more space within communities, and we think that, and there'll also be routes that will work through parks and other things that will be good connections for people going to school from the things, or maybe people going to the shops, or other things that could be more fun than just functional. And we're fortunate enough that the Walton Foundation had us out to Bentonville last year as well, and that was really what hit us there. Is they've got a trail going from their town centre that's kind of as a spine path, which we have a lot of spine paths as well, which I see they get used. They have their function. The one in Bentonville had a mountain bike trail snaking in and out of it, and the mountain bike trail had an easy line on the side and it had jumps around this corner, and it was absolutely buzzing. And this is in the States, which is not, in some ways has the same relationship with bikes that we have in the UK, probably a little bit worse as well. But it was absolutely jumping literally jumping. But it was also just so many people on it. You had mums and dads with prams going down the cycleway. You had kind of kids on balance bikes going around the bike trails. You had groups of guys going out and girls going out for out to experience the trails on the wider network. I thought actually that they've got a special set of circumstances there in Bentonville. But if our vision is to be a country that are healthy, happy, on our bikes, active, getting outside, then why can't we learn some lessons from that and put that in, and hopefully people can, use their cycleways to get to work, and then have some be able to play on the way home and go home with a smile, and
I think there is a thing that says that if you learn through play, you learn a lot faster than if you learn through like repetition and like actual enforced learning kind of stuff. So like sending your kids out to play in the park and them having a pump track that they can pedal to themselves and that kind of thing just seems like a total no-brainer, because those people that play on a bike are going to end up being good riders, and they're going to be people that like riding bikes, so they're going to choose to ride to work or whatever instead of getting a car when they're 17.
Absolutely. And then when they get a car or they get a jobs and they get more money as they grow up and do that, we want to have them be able to go, right, great, well, I'm going to go and jump on my train and my bus that are all equipped to take my bike from the city, and then I'm going to go to one of my best destinations and go stay there on the weekend and ride all weekend and go back even happier and healthier from it. And then those rural communities, which we've got issues within our rural communities of aging populations, their fragile economies as well, and mountain biking can help all of those things by retaining young people within them and then bringing those people our mountain bikers into our places so that we can spread economic benefit and it's not just retained within our cities.
Well, okay, and then finally the bit of the report which I'm probably least interested in, which is mountain biking as a sport, because for me it's not really a sport. Occasionally I might strap a number plate to my bike, but it's not the be all and end all or the purpose for me. But you have aspirations, and clearly you've now had or will have had a whole world championship in Scotland for you to be able to presumably measure some metrics and benefits and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably a bit like yourself, Hannah. Like I've done an occasional enduro now and again, and I managed to get a really fast few friends together and managed to get a podium at a puffer, but I don't think I can claim really the glory for that. But yes, the mountain biking is not, like, the sport is not the main driver for me personally. But I do think that sport does have its place, and I like mountain biking for that as well. I think from a lot of other adventure sports and do that, I like the fact that we do have high profile sport, and if you want to go fast and you want to achieve and you want to have an Olympic medal and do that, then you can and should be able to have that should be, ideally, that should be set up for everybody to be doing that. And I think that's something that would be great to see, is that we have a whole system like Scottish Cycling have been running a brilliant programme where we're giving free bikes to kids and trying to build, like we were saying before, building play and fun into that. So go to pump tracks and you have to turn up for 6 weeks and then you get to keep a bike and ride that every day. Ideally, if those kids want to become a world champion at it, then we can be able to set it up, a network of support up, so that they can then achieve on the world stage. I think that's just to me, that's just a nice dream, and that's something that we should be supporting.
And I noticed that there's something called artistic cycling. I didn't even know that existed, but it's in the championships. I'm yet to find out what that is.
Aye, have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
You know, Danny does a wheelie. Do you know that? You know that video? If you can picture that video. The person
that's done a handstand.
Yeah. The person, the handstand, and the ones that do that's that. I'm not going to Hannah. But
I thought there might be an opportunity for me to be a world champion at something, but not at that. No.
Have you just riding round, drawing pictures?
Something like that. Oh I was curious. Do you have the data yet? Maybe it's something that will come out of one of your projects. What is better per like pound spent as an inn? Is it a big flagship project like Glentress or Tarland, or is it the like here's some trail tools for a super local voluntary group? Like in terms of return, do you have any sense of?
Good question, Anna. I It's hard to say. Like we've got cameras up in the Golfie, for example, and the Golfie has gone. You know, if we look at the Trailfox data, which is what we're doing more and more, is looking at that and then matching that with the trail counters we have in the ground. Looking at that, the Golfie, since Tweed Valley Trails Association, have started to adopt trails and manage them, maintain them, and provide not sanitary experiences but safer experiences in fall zones and making sure brashing is done well and things. And the fact that it's managed and you know you're allowed to go there as well, I think is a big part of it as well. The numbers have gone hugely up there, and we're up to 70,000 riders a year on there as well.
Right.
Then you've got we've got Glentress, which is looking at about 250,000 riders, so it's huge as well. For pound, I suspect that the Golfie is the better value, if I'm honest. Like, if I'm looking at it, I'm looking at that, probably saying that. However, I think if we want to create the right places for us all to experience and enjoy mountain biking, we need both of those things to happen. So we need our strategic projects, we need our volunteers and our rider-driven trails associations. We need to be part of the outdoors and our upland paths and our wider countryside ones. We need our urban pump tracks as well. And I think through our networked way of working, I think we can help and achieve all of those things. We don't do that all. That would be too much and not an effective way of doing it. But we can spread knowledge and we can help inspire, and we can, sometimes make some phone calls if somebody gets to a place and has a barrier and we know that somebody solved it. We can connect it and help it, and then we can try and get all of those things to happen, which is what we need. Because if we just pick one model, then I don't think it's as strong as if we have got the best models for the best places and the right people for the right places as well. I'm sure there's a better way of saying that. It's catchier, but yeah.
And where do you draw the line? We talked a bit about like internally in single track. We sometimes say what is mountain biking. There's been quite a lot of discussion about that. So do you include the gravel riders? Is there anything that's off road, like pump tracks? That's not technically mountain biking.
Nah, not really.
Yeah.
But I was, when they started to come across, nobody else was getting interested in them, and I thought they looked amazing and did it. So I helped a lot of the first pump tracks to come into Scotland, and the model's going brilliant, and we support that. And while it's not technically mountain biking, the skills that the kids are learning on those and doing it are exactly the right bike handling skills that will take them on to enjoy trails and trail centres for a long time. And gravel as well. Gravel's in our trail section as well from in here. We definitely think that, speaking to a lot of the gravel people, kind of leading people in gravel in Scotland, there's definitely want for us to be involved in creating sustainable trail plans for places that include a gravel network. And there might be kind of small connections that look up with that. We look at our wind farms, we look at our forest road networks, and also probably a role for us to help also make sure that groups and ourselves are communicating responsible mountain biking messages for gravel as well. Like, everybody imagines gravel, you're in the middle of nowhere, there's not as many risks because you're not on a road, but you are on forest roads with big forestry vehicles. So there's something in those spaces as well that I think we can help with, in particular in regions that we invest in regional coordinators and we can create sustainable trail plans for.
Right. Okay. Well, before we go, what are you excited about happening in the next, as a result of the strategy, or things that we may not know are like coming down the pipeline? Can you tell us about anything?
I mean, yeah, we've covered a lot of the ones there, like, and they are all exciting projects, and that's why it's 14 years of doing the job it's just the more projects you can see it, and you can see the momentum gaining from it. I mean, I do think it's probably the ones that I enjoy and see the most benefit are the health program ones that we set up as well, and you see ones like of trail therapy and which is a program that we run that helps people and sustain and accelerate the recovery from mental ill health. And to see people and see the change in people that when you come into those programs, and to see them really go on and succeed in life, and that's the ones that are kind of like that. Like, yeah, that's what gets us. And I want to we can hopefully able to help support more of that to happen, and more people run things. We get more programs, and we get more disabled riders on the trails. We get more people from low income families being able to enjoy it and to do it. And those are the ones that kind of drive me personally a little bit, as much as, you know, big shiny events and big shiny trail centres and big investments are exciting, and they have their place. But it's really the ones that make a difference to people that gets me.
That's what gets you up in the morning and through the long meetings and through the strategy documents.
There's more meetings, Hannah, than you will. Yeah. You've worked in local government as well, haven't you? And you've worked in other places as well, and you know
Local
it's
government and national government. I'm an expert in long meetings.
yeah. There's long meetings, and there's like, no, why would you think this is a good idea? And there's definitely working with a lot of like, it isn't our strategy. We are doing it as a sectoral thing, so we're trying to always work with our partners and with national agencies, work with government and communities to really try and see if they can adopt it. They can get they understand how all the bits fit together, and they can deliver their bit and do that in a really good way, and we can help support that. A lot of our work is around those things as well, which inevitably is long meetings, which on occasion you're pulling my beard off.
Well, thank you very much for sitting through those meetings. Please hold on to your beard, and because I think it's good for us as visitors to Scotland, but I think it's also beginning to set some kind of map that maybe us in the rest of the UK might get to follow, to more mountain biking for all of us. So yeah, thanks for making it happen.
No, thank you for taking the time to listen to my chat today as well, Hannah. Thanks.